Why does he have to keep? Yeah, make him say like and subscribe again, motherfucker. Make him say that again, huh? 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 All right. We'll get to this stuff before we get to the end. I mean, we gotta pack the show full of stuff because we got to go out with a bang or a whimper or both. I don't know what the fuck this is. So, anyways, welcome. Hit that like early. Let people know we're here. That's what boosts it up. Right now, we are competing on Fridays. We always compete with our friends over at the China Show. They're great. And, of course, people like Destiny and other people who eat up a lot of the live bandwidth. So to get us even up into that where people are like, oh, shit, we want to be in the oh, shit line on there. So please hit that. That'd be cool. All right. Now, okay. Before I start this first clip, okay, two things. One, I know. Two, we're not going to do the whole thing because there's no fucking way it's worth it or the time is valuable. But I just find this like so on the nose with what we were talking about second hour today with the ladies of True Blue Politics. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jimmy serial killer drift eye Dore. Is it just me or is that? I mean, I'm not off, right? He didn't do that to himself. That's not Photoshop, is it? Anyways, apparently he is spurging truth at a general, and this is the day. Jimmy tells American general the U.S. is the world's biggest terrorist while living in a multi-million-dollar home in the Hollywood Hills in America. Again, it is one thing to say America, love it or leave it, and not allow any criticism whatsoever and be a dick about it. It is another thing entirely to yourself believe that you live and your taxes support and ever increasing taxes, I might add, support the government that he says is the world's biggest terrorist. It would be one thing if it was on the list or it did wrong or it did other stuff and we got to vote and fight back against it. That's not what this is about. There is no salvaging the U.S. according to Jimmy Dore, but he is very happy to nestle his sad little winky in between the butt cheeks of Uncle Sam now and forever, or actually have it the other way around. It's probably close to the other way around. He is very happy to use his withered butt cheeks as a hot dog bun for the great American missile. So, spitting truth. I actually believe. Yeah, I don't even want to. The chat room went further than I did. Okay, so this is his. I guess he's interviewing this guy and whatever.
So I wanted to show you this. So I like to show this on my show. These are all the U.S. military bases around the
right where we, and specifically a good portion of them, our Navy protects the waterways so ships get where they're supposed to be going. This is a lot of the stuff around the edges, that's anti-piracy. By the way, I want to point out the fact that these little bases up here are UN bases and places where we have peacekeeping forces mixed in with groups that when we leave, horrible shit happens. I don't think anybody has, sorry about the volume. Has anybody that watches this dickhead ever seen him give a rat fuck about Sudan, for example? Of course not. Don't be silly.
the world.
It's not a sex offender registry. If
This is not a sex offender registry. This is
Well, of course not, or Kurt would be on it, right? And that, I mean, he would know.
look at Africa, look at the Middle East, look at Asia, look at Europe. Look at this. It's amazing. And so we've had this.
Also, I mean, just look at that alone. Like, this is where either troops are stationed or have done stations or are doing exercises or any myriad of things. And if we're there for 10 minutes, this fucking pin stays on forever. Get the fuck out of here.
This is real. And not only there,
Real dumb.
but it's also in South America. Look at Central America. That is so.
And we still couldn't beat China or Russia in a war currently.
And we
with
still
all that shit. How is that possible?
How is that? But so
It isn't.
do you think it's time for us to pull back on the American empire. Do you think the United States?
That's not empire. As a matter of fact, a lot of those countries, when we pull back, their stability comes into question, and then they end up being taken over by awfuls.
States needs 1,000 military bases spread across the world like this?
I thought this was a map of all your Airbnbs that you have, Jimmy.
Oh, yeah, he's pointing out that Jimmy is a Marxist millionaire. That's a little jab. There you go.
So all of these bases, all the blue dots there, should probably be cut by 2/3. And when I was the Undersecretary for Policy, performing those duties, we were taking a hard look at the draw. We drew down out of Somalia, for example. We moved, and we did it in the.
Yeah, we drew down out of Somalia. Who the fuck needs to be in Somalia? It's not like, oh wait, slavery came back to Somalia. There's slavery in Somalia now. I'm so glad we drew back.
Dark at night over a week, and we didn't talk about it. But those 2,000 troops ish.
Oh, but the pin's still there.
We're gone. And we recommended to President Trump to hold, go down to around 2,500 in Afghanistan and take a look at it, see what it looked like.
Yeah, take a look at it, see what it looked like with us just holding the place for 2,500 soldiers, and and the rest are all contractors. You think he's going to make that distinction? No.
Sure, NATO was working with us. Biden fundamentally broke NATO when he just kind of left all of that. He left 29 other nations with no way out, and they had to figure it out. And that
out of Afghanistan, he broke NATO by getting us out of Afghanistan. Says the author of the Phalanx Code and Total Empire and something Tata.
That's part of why.
As a pro-Trump general, I don't like Biden.
There was no diplomacy in the lead up to Putin moving to the border. He saw how incompetent Blinken and Biden and all of them were, and just started rolling to the border and said, "Yeah, if I'm going to go, I might as well go now."
Yeah, because what better time could there be? I'll be able to take this place in 6 days, and boy, was he fucking wrong. Never mind the gibberish aspect of this. But how did that work out for him? Huh? How did that work out for Putin?
But because Biden had so fundamentally broken NATO.
Fundamentally broken NATO. Now, those three words in that order is ridiculous. That's Trump's dream. But NATO, you could even if NATO was on the back foot from Trump, it was not in danger of being fundamentally broken. If anything, like what's this asshole's argument? That Putin was worried that NATO wouldn't continue to grow, so he swooped in and attacked Ukraine to remind everybody why it existed? What the fuck?
They just kind of let Russia come, because what unifies something better than anything is a common threat, right? So that Russian threat came there. Nobody talked about how Biden broke NATO.
Right, because he didn't
anymore. And I know, because I have a lot of friends in these countries at very senior levels, and they were.
Oh yeah? You have a lot of friends in these countries in very senior levels? Let me guess. They're all friends of Marie Le Pen and Zlochevsky.
They were very, very, very upset.
Yeah. Paul Manafort.
So right now, the progressive agenda has so demoralized the military and this weak leadership that we have.
Oh, this is the whole like woke military bullshit that this guy's worried about, because if you're able to, and if the American military has people in it that learn to serve alongside like people of a different race and religion and transgender people or whatever, what kind of image are we presenting to the world? We have to have white Christian soldiers ready to wipe out whoever. I'd like, this is garbage.
That we can't make recruiting goals by about 25%.
That's constant. And by the way, one of the other reasons that nobody talks about why we're not meeting recruiting goals is because there's a living wage out there to be had, and there are educational paths that weren't there before. It used to be, what the fuck choice do you have? You're a particular economic rung. You got no chance to climb out of it. The military is your one way out. Now you got 5 ways out, and 4 of them don't necessarily involve you getting shot at. So a bunch of people, you'd be surprised, will jump right in there. Also, post 9/11, there was this big jack up in people getting in there, right? Everybody wanted to join for a while, and statistically, that went down from the spike caused by 9/11. And again, this is another situation where somebody doesn't want to solve for X in the equation.
And so instead of making sure that
they know people don't have to share next to.
We can meet those goals by changing something.
Yeah, change something, which is what? Not accepting people that would irk the normals who usually join the military. Is the idea that the new wave of Hispanic people who are joining, for example, over the last couple decades have really been the largest extra group, whites being the largest, but Hispanics being the second largest now, overtaking black people in general, that those people are basically have a Catholic background, don't like gay people and abortion, so by allowing for those things, you're going to scare off the Hispanics. Is that the argument?
They just lower the goal, right? So they're doing an election year, and when you announce recruiting hits or misses is around October, right? Because it's the fiscal.
Yeah, that's how everybody votes. All right, I know this guy's in line with my personal policies, and the other guy wants to eliminate a woman's right to choose and carpet bomb a bunch of fucking places, and believes that a Muslim ban is a solution for something, and that viruses go away in the spring. I know those guys, but what are is the military meeting its recruitment goals?
Fiscal year, so it ends September.
By the way, if that was your measure, no one has gotten, I guess, reelected by that, except that maybe it's George Bush second run, and then we have to go all the way back to the fucking 50s, I guess, like World War II, early, like the end of World War II, and maybe the numbers afterwards before that started to fade.
30th, and so
or the draft. What do you think? You think they that Vietnam was like they made a draft just to boost their re-election chances?
Magically, in October, I'll bet you a beer that Biden's going to say, and for the first time in 4 years, we've hit our recruiting goals. And all they will have done is lower the number of people that they're trying to recruit. And
all generally gibberish. Also, you'll notice Kurt and Jimmy are completely silent because they don't give a fuck at all about any of this.
And, our Constitution says raise an army, but maintain a navy. And so it's getting to your point here, this army that we are supposed to scale up or down based.
Okay, it seems like his problem is we spend too much time using our Navy policing the waterways to make sure that pirates don't take over ships and food and products get where they're going because our economic stability is more important than letting that shit slide. And so he's like, fuck these places. I don't care. Why are we policing these waterways? Because we're 80% of the fucking trade in the world for them? Maybe not even. We're probably less than 50 now that I think of it. But we benefit from 80% of it. Let's just say it that way.
Based upon threat was intentional from the framers of the Constitution because they saw the land wars going on in Europe, and they didn't want that. They feared a big federal government, and that's also part of the regulated militias, and that became the National Guard. And so you have that tension between states and the federal, the big government. And
yeah, the big government. So you're just saying we can't have a federal government that is, so small government conservatives are really just there to destroy the federal government. Cool.
And now coupled with big tech, that can really, really do some damage. And so but the Navy is about power projection, is about protecting commerce first and foremost back then when this was written. And so
still is.
So maintain a Navy. The words mean things, particularly to the framers. And so the Army, if we couldn't fight right now one regional war, much less two with China and Russia, and our national defense strategy lists.
Yeah, we could, because we're not going to use ground troops in doing meat waves like Russia and China plan on doing. Are you out of your fucking mind?
China, Russia, Iran, North Korea is our four main adversaries, and right now we are not.
We're not. Currently, your concern is we're not prepared to fight all four of those people at once because we don't have the population to fight a country. Two countries that equal our population, and then one that allegedly has 1.2 billion people.
Scaling our
fist fights?
Force to the vital interests of the nation, which is the formula you're supposed to follow. What are our vital interests? How do we defend those, or protect those, or ensure those? And then how big a military do we need to do that? And that's right before I left.
Yeah. Apparently, according to this asshole, it's everybody. That's right. It's forced conscription time from birth. We got to take on the military, like the Israeli military model. Everybody at 15 years old, you got to enter the military and prepare to fight because of the potential threat of open, like, meat wars between China, Iran, North Korea, Russia, and us. All at once.
Submitted a defense planning budget and defense planning guidance that matched the budget with the president's vision for DoD. And it's very important that all that hard work happens. And right now we're so busy infusing ideological garbage and with DEI and this anti whatever and BLM.
This anti whatever. You mean you're the anti woke person? What you mean is this woke shit? You're trying to avoid saying woke.
Stuff. I mean, for God's sake, West Point is changing its mission statement. It looks like I just saw some stuff going. They're removing duty, honor, country from the mission statement. I mean that the fundamental change going on in our.
Well, tell me when they do it, and then I'll give a fuck.
Bedrock institutions right now that helped make this country so great is really alarming to see some of these things happening. And
okay, all I can gather from this asshole is that he thinks, and I don't know if Kurt and Jimmy have just gone to take a fucking nap, but all I can get from this asshole is he thinks we shouldn't have as big a Navy, and we shouldn't have all these seamen and airmen out on the boats. I noticed how fast I said seamen, so you guys couldn't. I know you. And that we should be building the Army instead of the Air Force and the Navy, even though that's the majority of how shit is going to be fought, and quite frankly, our drone forces are going to be the primary on so many things, and then everybody else is going to be special forces. Like the idea of a regular army is just is so fucking last century. It's weird that you even would clamor for it.
And it's with the invasion across the border, with the.
Well, clearly we don't have enough troops for all these women and kids.
With the media and lockstep with the regime, instead of holding a microphone up to the media, to the administration and asking questions, they've got a megaphone and they're they're parroting the administration message.
Jesus Christ, dude. And you know what? I used to think Mike Flynn was a special kind of stupid, but apparently, was this guy one of those people where the CIA or the DOD were like testing chemicals to see if they put this in your drink, you can they could torture you all you want and you won't give away secrets and you won't break. But effectively, it was like it created brain lock in some of these motherfuckers, right? Sorry, what? Here we go. Doc in Paradise, simmer.
A narrative to the American people. That's fundamentally not the Fourth Estate's job. And so this collusion between the media, the administration, and big tech is really
big tech. Shut the fuck up.
Really damaging not only the fabric of our country, but in particular what used to be one of the most trusted institutions in the world, which is the American military. And right now, I would say that's not the case.
Again, the only people that I know of that say that kind of shit about the American military in that regard, because we have a civilian-run military. So the decisions, good or bad, are made by the people in charge of it. So in many ways, even, in the few cases I would say, like in Afghanistan and Iraq, where the generals were arguing against, arguing with the president, we just need to stay in a little bit longer, we'll work this out. Vietnam, same exact situation. It's up to the president to make the decision. It isn't even, those guys arguing their point is what they're fucking there for. And even they can't be faulted for being a hammer in a world of nails, because that's what they're raised to do. That's why we have civilian control over the military. That's why the president makes the decision. It's why a civilian makes the decision about where this goes, why it's the commander-in-chief. And what this guy's basically saying is that trust in the military is lost because we're trying to add diversity to shit, and that's what makes him not trusted anymore, because he used to be in it and he doesn't want to see that shit, and he thinks diverse is weakness. That's what he thinks. It's just odd.
Many polls say that's not the case, and so these dots on your
many polls don't say that's the case. There are not a lot of polls where the American military. Do you trust the military? Did you not trust the military? Like, get the. What's it gone down from? Vietnam or Iran-Contra? Is it down because we're out of Afghanistan? Maybe, what do you think, we should have stayed? Which is actually what he's arguing for.
We can't.
What the fuck is Jimmy nodding about? He didn't care about any of this shit.
Man, most of those places. We can't effectively do the job that those places were there for, and even if it's a supply depot. So
right, that's what most of them are.
We're in real trouble.
So, it's been the position of this show that America, not Al Qaeda or ISIS or Iran, is the world's terrorists, and we have been not only.
It's the position of this show. No, it's a hack bumper sticker phrase that Jimmy keeps blathering. And again, every time he says it, I want people to remember that he's never going to leave. They're not a problem. They're not, when someone like Trump takes over the military and decides to do something with it, or pulls us out of places where we're doing peacekeeping and a civil war breaks out and there's a genocide because of it. That's not the problem. The problem is we're the worst. We're the terrorists of the world. And therefore, because we're the terrorists of the world, if I genuinely believe that about America, I'd be gone. But apparently, I want you to remind you, every time he says that, what he's actually saying is all of his outrage and morals are for show.
With Iraq, proved that. But what we did to Libya, what we did in Syria, Yemen, we helped commit a genocide.
Also in Syria, what we did in Syria, leaving was the problem in Syria. The Kurds that got wiped out is because we weren't there to protect them.
Genocide there. We're helping commit a genocide right now in Gaza.
No, we're not. If we were, I got news for you, asshole. If we were the world's terrorists and we really did all the shit he's talking about and we wanted to help Israel commit a genocide in Gaza, I guarantee that 44,000 bombs dropped would not result in 30,000 deaths. Seriously. Explain that to me. Explain how we're the world's biggest terrorists. Israel is conducting a genocide. We're helping them do it. And apparently, you'd think with what Jimmy's saying, we'd have a lot of practice at this. But apparently we suck.
This war in Ukraine
at genocide
was provoked by the United States. And
look, Putin's not even saying that bullshit anymore. Like, drop it as a talking point. It was a lie in the beginning and everybody knew it. But this dickhead is still selling it even though Putin tapped out on. Putin's arguing that this is about fucking shit that happened in the 1800s.
You know, the 2014 Maidan coup. That's the problem, is that
the 2014 Maidan coup, you mean the one where they were under the control of Russia and Paul Manafort was working with Yanukovych and controlling the country on behalf of Russia, and everybody who was in that cabinet has fled, including Yanukovych, and is living under the protection of Putin because they were sock puppets for the Russian government trying to undermine Ukraine at every turn so they couldn't join Europe. But since then, they've had multiple elections, and they've all been fair. They have a functioning democracy. They were a free people who were attacked.
You just outlined the problem of the news media is not an attack dog or a watchdog of the foreign policy or the government. They're just there as a lapdog. And so when they talked about the Ukraine war, they start the story in the third act. And
yeah, they start the story where the actual attack happened. That's like Jimmy is the guy who would defend Hamas and Russia with the idea of like, yeah, sure, this guy raped this person, but let's go back to 8th grade when he was denied pussy by somebody in his class, and he carried that around with him all the time. And so rightfully everybody deserves, there should be somebody in the world for everybody. And so of course he eventually had to get there. So it's really it's her fault for walking by wearing the perfume of the girl that turned him down, 15 years ago.
The third act is when Putin invaded Ukraine. They don't tell you that the CIA got in bed with right-wing Nazis to overthrow their democratically elected government in Ukraine.
Yeah, and with the CIA apparently's deep plan to work with right-wing Nazis to elect a Jew like, dude. If that's actually how it went down, it wasn't. But if that's actually how it went down, kudos to the CIA for fucking the Nazis that were there into thinking that they were gonna like, oh, this is gonna be so good. We got the CIA backing us. Hey, who's that guy? Oh, he's the guy we're gonna force to be the president. Oh, really? Right now? No. Oh, thank God. Because he's a Jew and we hate that and stuff. No, he's going to be democratically elected by the populace in a couple of years. He's fucking what?
They don't tell you that the Ukraine government started shelling all the Russian speakers in the eastern part of
that. Okay, first of all, the technology involved in that is amazing. I think probably our military must be sucking up to Ukraine like, hey, thanks. Since our CIA was nice to partner with right-wing Nazis and I give you a Jewish president, how about you give us some of that technology that can tell if somebody's a native-born Russian speaker or if they learned from a book? How'd they miss the people who speak Russian as a second language? How did that
Ukraine
work?
Who didn't want to go along with that coup government, and that they had two peace
the people that Russia had been moving into that area.
Accords called the Minsk Accords. And
the mints. Yes, they were minty, fresh. They were the Peppermints Accords and the Peppermints Patty Accord. Minsk. This is the K and the...
And that who broke those? Not the people of the Donbass and not Russia, but the government of Ukraine did that while they continued to shell. And now we...
No, because in the Minsk Accords, they had to start moving out their military that the Russians had brought in. And their answer was no. And plus, we didn't bring anybody. Plus, no. They didn't live up to it. It's nonsense. Like, This is just fucking blab.
Have the former leader of Germany, Merkel, admitted that the only reason they did those Minsk Accords in the first place was to buy time so they could build up the Ukraine military so they could get ready for this war with Russia, which is a
get ready for this war with Russia, which they provoked by doing nothing. By they provoked them very, very secretly. By 8 years earlier, someone at a meeting suggested eventually Ukraine might be part of NATO. Never mind the 1997 NATO-Russia founding agreement that says that Ukraine and all the other countries that were former satellite states of the Soviet Union could decide on how they want to do their own security. Right? They could be in NATO or not. Good Lord.
an economic proxy war, which is why we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline.
We didn't blow up the Nord Stream pipeline.
And I think the only reason why people like countries like Germany and Europe go along with this militarization and this terrorism by the United States is because of all these bases that I have over my shoulder.
Yeah, they don't share our values or democracy or any of that kind of shit. They're just afraid we're gonna launch an attack on Germany from supply stops for naval bases that protect shipping routes, that giant tankers full of Mercedes and BMWs travel through. Get the fuck out of here.
And because we are the world's imperialists. And
yeah, that's why Japan speaks English and Germany speaks English, and there are American flags everywhere there, and we've killed the culture there. We've come in there, we've overrun Japan with our culture and our input. And same thing with Germany. I mean, there's nothing left. It's embarrassing. It's all baseball and freckle-faced kids. It's all like a Japan and Germany look like a goddamn Norman Rockwell painting. Don't even get me started on our shit in Africa.
Is there any other terrorist group in the world that you can think of that has caused more mayhem, set more fires, killed more people in the last 20 years than the United States and our military?
Well, I mean, if you want to call the Great Leap Backwards Mao Zedong in China, I mean, you're talking about somewhere in the order of 60 million people. You could talk about Russia's Holodomor and their attack on Georgia, their attack on Chechnya, their attacks on their own people. I mean, they're snuffing people in the street, in parks in London and on the street in Germany. The Wagner Group, of course, are in Sudan right now. In Somalia, which that guy brought up, Wagner mercs were terrorizing tribal people there to keep them from trying to engage in fighting for their rights in mining that Russia had an interest in. And the way they did this, they cut open the bellies of pregnant women and spilled their babies out onto the dirt as the women bled to death. Jimmy knows this, right? Jimmy's, I mean, this is what he does for a living.
Well, Jimmy, having served in the military for a career and served at DOD and served in education and transportation in the county, city, and state levels, I don't know that I would ascribe to the notion that America is a terrorist nation. What I will say is that there's a significant double standard, and I'll just tell you, I would say brigade commander.
Oh, somebody in the chat was like, Jimmy has a panic room. Guaranteed.
I'm a colonel in the 101st Airborne Division, commanding the Strike Brigade, the 2nd Brigade, and we were in Kosovo. Putting out small-scale Kosovo Albanians attacking Macedonians and defending against Serbs, and it was your standard peacekeeping chaos that was practically combat just about every day. And 9/11 happened. Bush came over to visit, and June of July of 01, and 45 days later 9/11 happens, and I get told, hey, you're coming back home and then you're going to go to Afghanistan with my 4,000 troops. And I said, yeah, that's what we do. That's what we're paid to do. And so while I'm training, I get back.
By the way, they had a base. Bagram's been there for, God, I don't want to say since the 70s, but maybe the early 80s.
With my brigade, Thanksgiving Day, 01, and we almost immediately go into training, and the division commander, two-star general, comes down, this early January 02, and says, you're not going to Afghanistan, you're going to Iraq. And I'm like, what the hell is in Iraq? And the malfeasance of Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, Wolfowitz, Feith, all of them should be, taken to task for what they did.
Are you saying it matters who's in charge? Weird.
Obviously Rumsfeld's leftist, but the one time our country asked for a head on a platter, the one time that in at least modern history, that there's sort of casus belli and just war to go find this guy who plotted this. We don't do that. We have an economy of force, and as Rumsfeld famously said, there aren't enough targets in Afghanistan. Well, you had plenty of targets if your goal was to capture Osama bin Laden and get the hell out of there. But those,
by the way, Jimmy rallied against John Kerry. He was, you can't change a horse midstream.
Those clowns forever changed the foreign policy, domestic policy of the United States. When they squandered the goodwill of the American people by redirecting.
See, also Jimmy's not enjoying hearing this, and I'm done. It's like we're not going to learn anymore from these two dickheads blathering about this. But I wanted to make clear, like this, Jimmy's not interested in the details of any of this, the history of it. Like, as far as he's concerned, this guy is and was a terrorist because he's part of it. He carries out terrorism, and everything he did in Kosovo was terrorism. Him just setting up in Afghanistan for this one particular base for base duty, that was terrorism. When they went to Iraq, that was terrorism, and then when they got moved over to Afghanistan again, that was terrorism. Like, it doesn't matter. None of this, the details don't matter. Jimmy is an isolationist who thinks that like his country is a junk pop culture country at its root, and on one side, and a total monster on the other. And he's comfortable with both. Useless culture that has no value, and this great beast that he rides the back of, which is again the oddest thing about it. If you're gonna say your country is that bad, why are you here? The redacted folks moved to South America. They're living high on the hog. Their dollar goes a lot farther down there than it goes up here. It always will, largely because of slave labor and drug money, which Jimmy has no problem with. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm like over it in that regard.